let's break the fourth wall. I'm going to tell a story for the third time. I don't even know if who even cares anymore at this point, but welcome on to the Second and Short podcast. This is the Cheap Seats. We're back, soon to be Mosaic Media, rebranding, but a trade went down in one of our leagues. If you're listening to this, nothing but respect for you. You do a lot of good work. I appreciate everything you do. Thank you for, putting your time into the league. But whenever I see somebody do a deal that I think is pretty bad and I think it ruins their team and they're not going to compete, I like to trade for their first round pick next year. That's what I like to do. I'm not trying to be insulting, but that's what I like to do. I'm not going to name names. They know who they are if they hear this. I'm not trying to call anybody out. Now, moving forward, I am Tyler Lauder, your host, Jason Teasley, Fantasy Dynasty expert. Today's episode, you see, we got our draft stuff back here. We're not going to give you grades on the draft. We already talked about that. We made jokes about that. Grades are fun. You can evaluate players if you want. Let's talk about Dynasty. Let's get back to this. I am just finishing up my second rookie draft of the year already. Pretty exciting. And it's nice to see because I do one pre-draft and then the rest are all post-draft. But it's nice to see where values change. So I can kind of see how movement happens for guys based on talent and landing spots. So we did a community mock draft. We asked Twitter, we asked Facebook, we did some polls, put them up against each other. And these are the results. The first 12 picks are that of the community and our votes, which only weigh a little bit. And then the second round, we're going to break down back and forth who we'd take in this Superflex, which really Superflex rookie drafts this year are like a one quarterback league drafts. That's what everybody's saying. That's what's turning out. So let's get it started. You are on the clock. 1.01. Who did the community select?
Me and the community select Bryce Hall, running back out of the New York Jets franchise. I think it's a good spot for him. I don't, I think him and Carter's going to have a nice 1-2 punch. Mm-hmm. But I think this is it was pretty much unanimous in our community poll that he's going to go 1-1 overall.
Yeah, and this was the way it was before the draft happened as well in rookie drafts before. And the reason why is because of talent. Let's evaluate the landing spot with the talent. He's a better pass catcher than fourth-round pick Michael Carter. He's better in pass pro. He's a more efficient runner through the tackles and the outside. I just think he's a more well-rounded running back. And I think like last year, he'd have been drafted around the same range if he was a rookie. And I think next year he'd have been drafted around the same range as well if he was a rookie coming out that year, even though next year's class is really good. And now with the number 2 pick, the community selects
Drake London, wide receiver out of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I think this could be 1-1. I mean, there is people that's talked about this being 1-1 simply because of the volume that he's going to inherit. With Ridley being out, playing opposite Kyle Pitts. So I don't think it's a 1-1 personally, but there is people that want, you have, like you said, people that want to be different, and that will take him 1-1. But I think it's a solid number 2 pick simply because of the volume. Mariota is not going to light up fantasy leagues or teams, but they're going to be playing from behind a lot, which means a lot of garbage time points, which means a lot of volume and a lot of production availability.
Yeah, and here's the thing. A lot of people see landing spot and Drake London jumps. Like we learn nothing from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I'm not saying like, oh, well, Drake London was the first receiver taken. You should. Sammy Watkins was also once drafted ahead of Mike Evans. Like we have to remember these things. And there's nothing wrong with Drake London, but I think of all the first round receivers, I think he has the biggest boom bust potential of all of them. Oh, yeah. He has a slight injury history, which everybody kind of does these days. And he's also kind of one of those post-up guys. He's kind of got a slight frame for his size, because like he draws that Mike Evans comparison, except for he's not as strong. He doesn't weigh as much. He doesn't have that body control that Evans has. But they get in the red zone. We see that Kyle Pitts is not a touchdown scorer, at least in America. And London might be able to get some touchdowns this year, especially when they're playing from behind. And I think the biggest reason why London moves up, and we all say like landing spot, it might be more so that the Falcons have like little competition for him to beat out. Like right now, to be the number 1 wide receiver, he needs to beat out Auden Tate, and he should do that just on draft capital alone. The number 3 pick, the community went with Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Tennessee Titans.
Which, with the shocking draft day trade, this opens up a lot of opportunity for him. He draws the comparison to A.J. Brown, who the Tennessee Titans traded.
Pretty funny.
In order to draft, basically, A.J., in their opinion, A.J. Brown 2.0. Mm-hmm. Rather than put him opposite of them, which, like I said, it really didn't make sense to me. But there's a lot of other factors, and A.J. Brown wasn't happy in Tennessee. So, you want your players to be happy. So bringing in A.J. Brown 2.0 for Tennessee, I think is good. I think he's got a lot of upside.
And he's a big, bulky receiver, 6'2", 225. He's got decent speed on him. All the reports are that he plays faster than he's clocked in at, than he looks and his size. He has really long arms, which brings in a really good catch radius for him, which is pretty nice considering his quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. So that'll help out. They are on a run-first team, so we are going to see opposing defenses probably stacking the box more. We do see the Titans draw a lot more 7, 8-man boxes than most teams in the NFL. And so with that, he might see more single coverage as a rookie, which is pretty nice. Potentially, I don't know how he's going to heal. He should have Robert Woods across from him, which should be the main focus of most teams. And then outside of that, it's like Austin Hooper. So it's like he doesn't really have a lot of threats to take away targets from him. And he should see a lot of targets in year one, regardless if he produces, the targets will be there. Now let's talk about 1.04. The community comes around. And I have seen this guy at talks for pick 1, mainly because people love the situation. That's what it is. But let's go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to be Walker out of Seattle. And just to throw this out there, is what we're going to. The consensus between Burks and Walker was a 48 to 43% at pick 3.
Oh, there you go.
And then Walker had competition at pick 4 and edged out our receiver with a 44 to 41% win at the pick 4. I like Walker. He has immediate value because that running back committee in Seattle is in disarray. Chris Carson may never play football again with a neck injury.
Yep.
We've seen Penny come on late in the season.
And they only signed him to a 1-year deal.
And like he played to the potential when he was a rookie that everybody expected him to come in and play at. Mm-hmm. DJ Dallas is there, doesn't make a lot of noise. So he has a wide open opportunity to become the man in Seattle, the bell cow there. So I like this pick. I go back and forth with him for the 3 to 5 range, just depending on who's ahead of me. Yeah. So if you can get him at 4, I think it's a win.
I think so as well. And I could easily see something like that happening. A big thing that we have to remember is a lot of people will look at situations like, let's look at a couple things. Yes, he has Chris Carson in front of him. He has Rashad Penny in front of him. But we have to remember Penny got signed to a 1-year deal. Chris Carson missed 13 games last year. He just is too injury prone. And I think that's a ship that's going to sail. I think they're going to transition Walker in slowly. Something we do need to pay attention to is the Seattle Seahawks focused on the offensive line. They went out and they got Charles Cross at 9. They went out and got Abraham Lucas, the other tackle. Gabe Jackson's still there they came over from the Raiders a couple offseasons ago. And they've started to slowly tailor this offensive line a little bit better. And Drew Lock is their quarterback. So do we trust Drew Lock? I think that what's going to happen here, Seattle didn't make a move for a quarterback. They did not go out and trade for Baker Mayfield sans, recording this. And a big thing we need to know about this is that gives Kenneth Walker more opportunity going forward because the 2 running backs could be gone next year. Probably should. We'll see. Drew Lock will probably be gone next year. So Seattle will probably have a rookie quarterback. And now they're going to keep running the ball because of rookie quarterback. So in the first 3 years of Walker's career, he could have tremendous value. And I think he's a guy that you want to snag here at 4 if he's available. Instead of the receivers, because his value is going to grow from this offseason to next, that you could probably snag 223 first next year and build even more with that even better running back class. I just see it happening, and it's gonna move. And this is the type of guy that you could probably, in a year, you could probably trade for like a top 14 to 16 quarterback in Superflex leagues. With the number 1.05, the community mock draft, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, New York Jets. He was drafted in the first round, pick 10. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, the community was pretty much a large consensus on this pick.
Yes.
74%. I think this is a great pick. He doesn't have a lot of competition. He's going to be able to grow with Wilson, so the Wilson connection is going to be there. They signed 2 solid tight ends that's going to be able to help with the underneath route. He's going to be able to stretch the field. So I really like this pick, and especially getting him at 5.
And we'll get to him. But Garrett Wilson comes with one of the safest wide receiver prospects in the first round that was drafted. I think that he's got really good size, 6 foot, 183. He's a really good guy that's going to be able to fit into playing multiple roles. I think he can play outside. He can play inside really well. I think he's going to be a go-to target hog on this team. And he does have some competition right away because there is Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Burrows. Those 3 were just signed last year, re-signed this year, drafted last year. They went out and signed Tyler Conklin. They signed Uzma from Cincinnati. They just drafted Breece Hall. So year 1 might be meh. That's okay. People are going to predict these to be rookie of the year. I don't think it's going to happen because there's going to be so many, like all these other guys that are drafted around him are going to see so many more targets and so much more usage. But I think he's going to be very efficient with the target share that he gets. And I don't see him making a lot of drops. He has great body control, great hand-eye coordination. He's a slick, like route runner. Like he's not like the best route runner, but he's just very efficient with how he cuts and breaks. And I think that he's just a well-rounded receiver. And when I look at him, they compare him to Robert Woods. I still don't see that comparison. I think he's going to be a slightly better receiver. And everybody really just wants this Wilson to Wilson connection to happen. But what I think is going to happen is with so many decent options that can move around and play different places, he's going to draw a lot of single coverage, and that's going to be the benefit. And I think in year 2, this is a guy that we're going to see drafted early, and I'm talking long on him. We're going to see drafted early this year. And then next year, I was going to be like, man, why didn't we take blah, blah, blah ahead of him? Because he had a better year. But then in year 2 to 3, I think he's going to explode. Yeah. So if you're patient with him, you're going to benefit from this. And he has the best chance because he's safe to be a top 12 receiver in Dynasty. With the 1.06, the community mock draft, wide receiver Jameson Williams, Detroit Lions, they traded up from 32 to 12 to take him. And in my opinion, before you jump in, this is the best receiver in the draft class. However, he tore his ACL.
Yeah, and with 47%, the community agreed that this should be the pick. I think he has the highest upside, strictly because he's going into a offense that is very young.
Yep.
That is very, very adamant to play from behind. Mm-hmm. And he's got the talent. The injury is what scared a lot of teams in his scouting report, coming back from an ACL. It's not like it was 10 years ago where, that was pretty much you're done, your career's done. Medical sports injuries came a long way. So I think this is actually my dark horse rookie of the year. Simply because he has so much talent around him. He's going to benefit. And Goff is not a bad quarterback. A lot of people give him hell, but he is a solid quarterback, and giving him yet another weapon is going to turn this around.
No, and I agree. And here's the thing we have to look at. This team is going to build with, they have a decent offensive line. They're getting some good defensive players that I thought they drafted really well. And they have TJ Hawkinson, DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. It's a pretty nice little group there that he gets to come in. And what's nice about this is that If you are, this is what I'm talking about. Let's say that you have decent running backs and you have the 1-1. This is the perfect place to fall to because two things happen by you falling down and taking Jameson Williams. A, you gain bundle of picks. Moving from 1-1 to 1-6 should net you a first round pick next year, in my opinion. So you gain an extra first next year. You get Jameson Williams. You're not going to get production from your first round rookie this year because he's probably going to redshirt or at least start on the pup. And so you're going to miss 6 games probably. And then you're probably going to end up with the 1-1 next year, plus that first you got from the middle of the tier team. And you're going to have, I just think it's a benefit for teams. Here's what I'm saying. A lot of the community is worried about the ACL, but the Detroit Lions traded up to get him at number 12. So they're not even worried about it. With the 1.07, we finally introduce ourselves, and it feels like a super flex quarterback, Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh Steelers. They drafted him. They were patient. They got him at pick number 20 in the first round. This team got Mitch Trubisky, but then they've used the first round draft capital on Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and like you said, this is the first time this feels like a super flex.
Yeah.
The community was split here. Only choosing Pickett with 42% versus 38% of the next player. So it's really weird because, you know, you figure in a super flex dynasty, you're going to see, you know, a quarterback run away with the votes here. We did not. That worries me. I think he got in an ideal landing spot for Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a young team. I'm not a Steelers fan, but ideally he fits that scheme really good for him to excel. So I like this pick, but I could slide him down 2 picks and still be okay.
So here's the thing that we have to realize, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a tremendously loyal franchise. Big Ben dealt with controversy and they stuck with him. Big Ben's play declined. They stuck with him. Big Ben was constantly getting injured. They stuck with him. They're very loyal. Let's talk about Kenny Pickett here. What does Kenny Pickett have that other rookie quarterbacks don't have? A stable franchise to pair with his good size, to pair with good options at receiver and tight end, a nice running back to rely on, an okay offensive line that seems like they're always going to keep trying to get better at. And I think those things make Kenny Pickett actually pretty attractive here at 1.7 and ready to go. So with the 1.08, wide receiver Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints moved up to get him. And pick 11, they moved with the Commanders. They moved up and got their guy. We thought he was going to go to this team already at 16 or 19. We had him going there. And Saints go up and get him, and now he sits behind Michael Thomas. Go ahead.
Yeah, and not necessarily behind Michael Thomas. He's going to be playing opposite, which gives you a huge option with 2 solid receivers, and he lets him sit under the Michael Thomas learning tree of NFL receivers. Yeah. That's not bad. Now, off the field issues aside, Michael Thomas on the field is a tremendous talent. Mm-hmm. And when he's happy, he could teach. He's going to nurture this kid, bring him along, and I think this is a perfect landing spot, especially when New Orleans gets a quarterback that they can settle in on and they can have some longevity without the rotation constantly. I think this is going to be a huge upside.
I mean, Jameis Winston had success with the Buccaneers. I mean, this is dynasty. So we're not talking about like really NFL, how much we need them to fit, just how we think they're going to perform. And I mean, Godwin and Evans looked good with Winston. And we've seen him treat other players and be able to facilitate and feed multiple options. Now, Olave comes into an offense where he is automatically slotted in as the 3rd in target share. So for me, I'm not going to, in one of my drafts, he was the 3rd player taken overall. And I wasn't okay with that. I didn't agree with it. It's a 2-copy league. So he was kind of drafted. I think he was like number 3 and then like number 6, but collectively he was the 3rd player taken. For me, I like guys that are going to be like number 1, number 2 in target shares. He's going to be behind Michael Thomas. He's going to be behind Kamara. But let's assume Thomas is on his way out. We don't know Kamara's situation. The Saints quarterback situation could stay the same or change. But what we do know is the Saints have been trying to pair And it's not like he's like, this is his only role, but they've been trying to pair a receiver that's got really good speed and can track the ball downfield to play opposite of Michael Thomas. Because Michael Thomas is that intermediate. He's that, what do we say? He runs a quick slant like 25 times a game. And Kamara's like a dump off, play into open space type of guy. So if they can get somebody 20 yards down the field that consistently can track the ball, can beat one-on-one matchups, Olave comes in and fits that pretty well. And I think he's a pretty safe player to have on your team, but he's one of those guys that I think he might be cheaper to buy in year 2 than to draft right here. But I don't hate the pick because I think he's better than all the receivers after him. With the 1.09, things start to get murky. This next set of 4 or 5 picks, rotate them however you want, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I sure. Yeah. Anybody from 1.9 to 2.2, mix it up. We have wide receiver Skye Moore, one of the Kansas City Chiefs, drafted in the second round, pick 22 in that round. Everybody was saying whoever the Chiefs drafted receiver is gonna move up. Now, Skye Moore, I'm surprised didn't get drafted earlier because I've heard of him getting drafted at like 1.6, 1.7 in Superflex leagues. He probably was a 1.11, 1.12 guy pre-draft, about that range, maybe 2.1, and he moves up a little bit. Let's talk about him going to the Chiefs and now pairing with Juju and McCole Hardman and MVS.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not going to be the number one receiver, but he fits a position that when they lost Hill, that has an immediate opening, and they're hoping Skye Moore could come in and fill that. It's big shoes to fill, but spread across the rest of the receivers, I think it's possible.
What we have to know is that yes, McCole Hardman's already there. McCole Hardman fits that profile of speedy receiver down the field. They've tried it, but then again, he was the third option, so maybe he can take Hill's role. Then they bring in MVS, who compares in speed to Hill, and now they draft Skye Moore. Here's the thing: of all those guys, Skye Moore's potential is better. Skye Moore, I think, he's got a really nice, like, solid floor. I know a lot of people are like, I've heard a lot of people, and we're gonna talk about him a little bit longer than most of these other guys, but I've seen so many people on Twitter, which is just troll land anyways. And I've seen people on Facebook, and they're just like, oh, why does everybody love Skye Moore now? Like, we're all acting like we didn't like Skye Moore before coming into this draft. Like, he was like in the tier 3 of receivers for everybody pre-draft.
Yeah.
And of all these receivers, outside of like sleepers that you like, I'm looking at you, Shakir, he went to the best quarterback situation of anybody, in my opinion. That includes Watson to Green Bay. He gets Patrick Mahomes. That's a benefit. And if we say it's not, and I understand, we'll Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, but that's a running back on a pass first, second, third, fourth team. Now we're getting a receiver on a pass first, second, third, fourth team. That's the benefit. That's the difference. And he has to beat out 2 guys that A, couldn't take the job when they had it, and B, are going to a new team because they couldn't cut it where they were to take the job when they had an opportunity. With the 1.10 community mock draft, wide receiver Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers, they traded up with Minnesota. We didn't talk about this with Williams, but the Minnesota Vikings are not good at covering receivers. That's the joke everywhere. And then they gave both their division rivals 2 good receivers. I'm surprised they didn't trade up with the Bears later on to help them get a receiver, just try and help out everybody. Shows what they think of the Bears. But Christian Watson, second round, second pick, joins Aaron Rodgers, and he gets his wish. He gets a receiver. And we were right. We knew Watson was going to Green Bay. We were just early.
He's going to be successful, but I don't think he's ever going to be an elite receiver. I think he's going to be a middle of the pack receiver. There's no real other pass catcher in Green Bay. So he's going to get the volume that's left by Adams, but I see a struggle here.
So what we have to know is that Robert Tonyan's still there. Aaron Jones catches the ball pretty well. Sammy Watkins is competition. Alan Lazard is still there. But I just see, he's a great opportunity. But he needs to develop. Like, if you flipped him and Skye Moore, I would have been happier with this because I think Christian Watson could I'm saying in the NFL. Christian Watson could develop with Mahomes for a couple of years, but Aaron Rodgers at any moment can just pack up and leave. Money is not an issue for him. He makes tons of money with State Farm commercials. Jeopardy will pay him out the ass to be their host forever. He'll make money wherever he goes. He doesn't care. Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers should see 80 targets this year, and I would be happy with that with the 1.11. Let's talk about running back. James Cook goes to the Buffalo Bills, second round, pick 31. We thought they were going to take a running back. Talks to them trading for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe they'd get Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker. They get James Cook, who was pre-draft, like RB like 6 or like 5 or 7. He was in there. And now, everywhere I'm looking, he is the consensus RB3 coming out in the drafts.
And he has very little competition. Singletary and Moss are ahead of him. Neither one of them has burst onto the scene and been like explosive. So he comes into a backfield that has the opportunities and an offense that is explosive. So I think he jumped up, like you said, 3 spots in the running back tier. And I think this is a really good fit.
You don't need to get results from him in year one. Final pick in the community mock draft, first round, before we jump in and take over and mock ourselves. The 1.12 just done this morning, wide receiver George Pickens, Pittsburgh Steelers, second round, pick 20. Being able to grow with a quarterback, fantastic. I love it. I like when teams do this and they pair guys up like this. And what's nice about it is he comes to a place that historically Pittsburgh hits on their second to third round picks. We see these guys have good seasons, and outside of slight people like bumps, they end up doing pretty well. What is he's got to compete with Deontay Johnson. He's got to compete with Chase Claypool. And then obviously we have Freiermuth and Harris there. And they did also draft Calvin Austin the third. But I see a road to being a wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 1 for him that I don't see for a lot of other receivers that went in the second round necessarily. Like obviously like Skye Moore is always going to be behind Kels. That's what's going to happen. And even when Kelsey's like, they have Juju, who I think is better.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep trying to go. And Christian Watson, same thing. I don't think he has the tools to be like the number 1 receiver on a team. He might be a only good receiver, but that's what I look at. And I think George Pickens has that ability that he can, if he can remain healthy. I really like it. And I just think Pittsburgh Steelers, second round receiver, it's a plus. And that concludes our first round of the community mock draft. So thank you to everybody that voted for us on Twitter and Facebook. Now, speed round, even shorter. Let's go ahead and talk about 12 more players. You and I went back and forth right after this. We mocked the next 12 picks. So let's go ahead and knock them out. At pick 2.01, first round draft capital, wide receiver Jahan Dotson for the Washington Commanders. He got picked at, top 16. Why is he falling? And he's falling in this range of all drafts and all rookie drafts, all ADPs right now. Let's talk about Dotson of the Commanders.
The reason why I think he's fallen is he's with the Commanders.
Jahan Dotson has Curtis Samuel ahead of him. Let's talk about him first. He has 2 more years on his contract. That's it. So going into year 3, he's out. Dotson takes over for him. Also, Terry McLaurin's rookie deal is up after this year. He wants a big contract. If the Commanders don't want to pay him big, he's out and Dotson moves up again. So I don't see where this room is bad. I don't think him paired up with Carson Wentz is bad. I think it's a great landing spot. I think he fits in as a slot receiver right away. And I think Logan Thomas, always injured. Antonio Gibson doesn't get the pass play that we thought he would, the targets that we think he should. I think you're going to get a guy at 2.01 here that is a steal and that could be easily drafted as high as 1.9. In my opinion, he has great draft capital. He was a fantastic player in college. And I think that we're really just undermining with the 2.02 running back Damien Pierce, drafted by the Houston Texans. We see this is a 4th round, second pick in the 4th round at 107. He comes from Florida, 5'10", 218. He's got a decent competition, but let's talk about him.
I think this is a sneaky pick, value-wise, because he's got nice, compact running stature. He's got nice, shifty footwork, but people like to think, well, it's Houston. He's not going to succeed. He doesn't really have that much competition in front of him, which is, the opportunities there. You have a quarterback that, does Houston really believe in Mills. So there's more opportunity. I don't hate this pick. I think that it's a solid pick that can benefit in year 2, but not year 1. So I think this is a project pick, and I don't hate it, but you have to realize that this is going to be a project pick.
But I think guys that are good at pass catching, guys that can run, straight downhill on you, and guys that pass block really well, they stay on teams longer. They get on the field faster, and he's not worn down. So he's got a long career ahead of him. Pick 2.03, running back Rachaad White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, third round, pick 27. He sits behind Leonard Fournette and, Vaughn. And let's just talk about him. Go ahead. Why'd you take him?
I think because he's got the easiest road to be a starter than anybody. Fournette is a pretty much a power back. This backfield with him going in, and I don't think that there's no issue with Rojo being gone, him taking over the running back too. But I compare this to the old Giants, Thunder and Lightning of Bradshaw and Jacobs, where Fournette's going to be your power back, and White's going to come in and be the elusive back. You're going to see a lot of second half rushes from him after Fournette wears defenses down in the first half. I think this is a great pick with a great situation. He's going to learn. You have Tom Brady as your quarterback. Yes. Tom Brady will develop a running back. We've seen it in New England. Look at all the success running backs had there. There was like 100 in the backfield, and they all had some success to the point where you never knew who to start fantasy-wise.
And I do think he's going to be playing on a good team that could be winning a lot of games, that has an older-ish running back ahead of him that's in his late 20s that does see injuries, and he could see field time out of the next group of guys. Absolutely. Now to 2.04. Let's get back to Superflex. Quarterback Malik Willis, Tennessee Titans, third round, pick 22. This could have been another running quarterback here, but I think Malik Willis is 2 to 3 bad games from Tannehill away from being a starter. A lot of people don't think so. They think Tannehill's locked in, but I could see the Titans not playing so well at the beginning of the year and just wanting to move on. Plus, he has a pretty good running back, and he has a nice first-round receiver to pair with as well.
Yeah, and we talked about that receiver quarterback growth. I think this is ideal spot. So I like this pick.
Yeah, and Malik Willis brings a deep arm with him to be able to hit somebody down the field like Burks, to be able to move out of the pocket when it breaks down and extend the play. And I think that I just think that we're not thinking that he has a legit chance because of third-round pick, but third-round quarterbacks have a decent chance of succeeding in the NFL. It just depends on situation. But after 2023, that drops to $9 million with some voidable restructuring cap hits and everything. I think potentially he could see starting a lot sooner. Titans could move on, save some money, move somewhere else. 2.05, David Bell, wide receiver, drafted to the Cleveland Browns, 335, comes into fit and take Landry's spot.
Yeah, I think this is opportunity that can go in. There's going to be some targets to go around. I think Cleveland's wide receiver room is going to be looking for identity, and I think this is opportunity for him.
Yeah, and he really has to compete with Donovan Peoples-Jones for the number 2 spot, but after that, it's like Anthony Schwartz for the number 3, Jakeem Grant, who they brought in, but that's more of like a returner guy. I think he has a nice opportunity to fit into that number 3 receiver. I've not been a big David Bell fan. We talked about this in our mock draft. I don't hate him. I just don't love him. I'm okay in the second round taking a throw on a guy like this. He has potential. connection with Watson. He doesn't have to be a number one right away. I like things like that. Pick 2.06, Isaiah Spiller to the San Diego Chargers. I was debating, Los Angeles Chargers. Wow, I haven't done that in a long time. I've been going back and forth about this, about how we feel about Spiller. Pre-draft, he was a number 3 running back, pre-combine. Then combine hit, and people are like, maybe he's the number 3 to number 5. And then he gets drafted as like the 7th running back taken total. He falls to the 4th round, pick 18. The Chargers take him, and we have a familiar spot because the Chargers seem to take 3rd to 5th round, running backs a lot.
Yeah, I don't like the landing spot, but Eckler does tend to have a lot of nagging injuries through the season.
All on his right leg. His right leg I think it's his right leg, is just beat up constantly.
And I think this gives the ample opportunity to be a running back that could come in with a similar, style that Eckler has to help Eckler have some more longevity and cut down on those in-season injuries. And I think that's what the Chargers need, is a running back that can give Eckler a break without relying on him so much. I think Spiller fits that void.
I think he does. And we have to remember that they didn't re-sign Jackson, so they didn't bring him back, which, that means something. We have to think that does mean something. So really, he's got to compete with Larry Roundtree, Josh Kelly. That's about it. And then Eckler's right there. So, there's going to be touches available for him. He's not the fastest guy, but on top of that, he's also only 20 years old. So he's very young. He'll be 25 or 21, I think. It's like mid-August is when he turns 21. So a nice young receiver. Eckler's got 2 years on his deal. This is a nice little transition area. And I think that a guy that was looked at as maybe getting drafted as high as like 1.6, 1.7 in rookie drafts falls to the middle of the second. It's an easy dart throw for me to take and sit and hope his value grows. I picked 2.07. You went wide receiver, Alec Pierce for the Colts. It kind of moves into that number 2 to 3 slot for them right away. Initially, with them not making a big move, we know they want another receiver. But yeah, 2nd round, 21st pick.
I think this is the drafting replacement thing for TY. And I think they pretty much got TY 2.0 with the stature, the body control, the playmaking ability. I think, and we talked about this with Michael Thomas, having a rookie come in and learning under a more experienced veteran is key to get acclimated to the game. To go over playbooks, to have in the film room, to help you read your defenses, to help you, get your body control right. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for TY to finally not carry so much of the weight of the Colts on his shoulders.
When he's a free agent, and they haven't brought him back yet. We assume they will.
Yeah. But, I think he slides in there, and it's going to be a good position for him to excel. And getting him in the mid-second is ideal.
At pick 2.08, I took running back Samir White to the Las Vegas Raiders. He went in the 4th round as well. He went 1 pick before Isaiah Spiller. This is a day after, I think it's a day or 2 after the Raiders decided to decline the 5th-year option of Josh Jacobs. Kenyon Drake didn't do a lot of stuff last year at all, being the number 2 guy there. I don't think this means they're moving on from Jacobs. A lot of people do. That's exactly what people read into it. But what I think it is that they just don't want to spend that much on a running back, and they'd rather re-sign him to a deal. That's all I think. Like, they're okay if he goes, but they want to find a cheaper deal. So Samir White is a very popular running back in the dynasty community. A lot of people think, played out of Georgia. He got to split carries. He didn't have to be the number 1 guy all the time. And I think he's got a lot of health and longevity ahead of him, which is nice, with a lot of touches. Kind of we talking about Pierce. And he comes to a team that I think is willing to move the ball a lot. Besides just throwing, like they're able to do so many different things. They're not a set in stone type of team. He's a pretty decent catcher, pretty good after the catch as well. 2.09. You went quarterback, Matt Corral, Carolina Panthers, third round. They traded up for him, 30th pick in the third round. Let's talk about him.
I think this is an ideal situation. I mean, he went to your favorite team with the Panthers. Sam Darnold is there, but I think Carolina likes to have the next player to fill that role. They haven't hit on a quarterback since Cam. So I think that this was a front office decision. I don't think that they're going to be bad enough to be in the top half of the draft to get a quarterback next year. So I think
agree.
that's why they rolled with this year. He was talked as being one of the top quarterbacks coming out this year. And then he started sliding for unknown reasons. Nobody knew why. So I think Carolina got a steal, got this quarterback, got a quarterback for the future. I really like this pick. And a super flex, I think this is going to be very, very beneficial.
Let's keep it going. 2.10, quarterback Desmond Ridder, Atlanta Falcons, 10th pick in the third round. Our third quarterback in this second round here, and this is where you're going to get your quarterbacks for some depth in your super flex leagues. He gets to sit behind Mariota. It's a short leash. The Falcons don't want to win, I don't think, but they have a lot of needs all over this team. I think they're going to be in a really good position next year in the draft where people are going to want them to take a quarterback, and they're going to be able to maneuver down and get a stud defensive player, probably a pass rusher, which they desperately need. And they can roll with Ridder for another year. He's not safe. He's not locked in, but he's a good runner. He's got a pretty good arm. He's a safe quarterback. He does have some accuracy issues, but I'm not too worried about it. He's got some big targets in Drake London and Kyle Pitts that I think will benefit from that, from having decent catch radiuses as well. And another thing that we don't talk about, and this is so weird, because if you want to back up your point when you're talking about a quarterback, you bring up how good of a winner they are. But if you don't like a quarterback, you say wins aren't quarterback stat. But if you remove that quarterback, teams win less. So it's like, it's a weird thing, but he's a winner. He lost like 6 games as a starter for Cincinnati. He made Cincinnati a legit team. He made them, they got to the college football playoff because of Ridder. Everybody else, yes, they were fantastic. Lots of good players, but without him at quarterback, this team does not do as well. And they don't make it to the top 4. And they don't make it into the top 10 back-to-back years. He's made Cincinnati a real program. And I think because of him and his play, I think he's elevated that program. And he has a chance to do it here with Atlanta. 2.11, wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. Giants drafted at the 11th pick in the second round. You went homer here, but he's got a good opportunity.
Yeah, because the Giants are still looking for that wide receiver one. I think this is a good opportunity. And he's got big body receiver ability with big playability. So I think he gets into an ideal situation where he doesn't have to be relied on as the man in that receiving room, but he has room to grow. They declined Daniel Jones next year, so you're going to possibly get a quarterback that you can grow with.
Hey, I'm going to let you have a quick chance to redo that because you said he has a big body. He's the smallest receiver in this draft. He's 5'8", 170.
He's a big-bodied receiver. Like he gets separation.
Okay. All right, that's fair. Okay, all right. I thought you were saying like he's a large individual.
No, he's a big-bodied receiver because he is very physical.
Fair enough. Okay, I like it. He plays physical. All right, I was just checking because I was like, he's a small man. Okay, that's fair. Now let's talk about the last pick in this round. Go lots of different places. You want to get the tight end, first tight end, whichever one you like. Top 3, I like them all. You want to get I wouldn't go another quarterback here. There's a running back you like, receiver, whatever. There's a lot of guys you can go here, and I think they all rotate. I went Jalen Tolbert, Dallas Cowboys, 3rd round pick, pick 24 in this draft, this round. Here's what we have to know is that we have Michael Gallup injured. We don't know when he's going to return. He's gone. Amari Cooper's gone. Those are targets that are opened up. I don't see CeeDee Lamb being that number 1 that we thought he was going to be and just dominate and step up. I think he's a really good receiver. They also lost Cedric Wilson. These are all things we have to factor in. So Cedric Wilson, 61 abandoned targets. Amari Cooper, 104 abandoned targets. James Washington is not going to take all those. Jalen Tolbert's going to get every opportunity to be the number 3 receiver here, just as James Washington will. I think this gives them some flexibility to run 4 wide. They're going to run a lot of 3 wide consistently, but they're going to be able to use 4 receivers in rotation a lot. And with that, we are done here. 24 picks. First Superflex rookie mock draft. We'll do another mock draft here in a couple weeks. Who knows? We'll talk about it. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow us. Subscribe down below if you're watching on YouTube. Like this video. Give us like your rankings. Give us some picks you like that you are you can't stop drafting this guy at X pick. And tell us who you would switch out in our second round that we made a pick on. Follow us on all social medias. We're part of the W2M network. We're going to have another network partnership coming up soon. We're talking about and working on this transition thing to Mosaic Media. Spoiler alert again. And check out Jason when he starts reviewing some more movies over on the W2M network. That's all we got, though. We got to get out. You guys have a good day.